It's reality. You can.
And look, he's not wrong for making a $2,400 profit. Look, I like Sherwood. I like Royalty Auto. These guys are great, but you can kind of go too far in over explaining yourself sometimes. You shouldn't have did that.
Up online. You can go on, you look
Because
it
there
up
are people
wherever.
out there that will know
You
what
can
you're.
find it.
I
30 to
know what you're talking
35%
about.
of this sale. Forget about the not this sale with the taxes. This sale. Okay, that's just reality. So what is then our net profit? Technically, what we get to keep, right?
Let's see why that's technically here in a second.
Yeah. So now we're down to 630.
So you're saying as a business, you only made $200 more off that car than the tech? Well, with that being said, just be the tech. Why don't you then? Nah, man, it's not true. That's not true. You made a lot more than $600 off that car.
$13.40. All right?
And it's a good thing.
$613.40
There's nothing wrong.
is real net profit. Okay. Now comes the fun part. We get to pay tax on that. Right? So we have to pay at the end of the year. You add all these numbers up, and we have to.
Bro, you're throwing tax on $613. No. Oh, no. Guys, this is the reality of the situation, right? And I'm going to let you know. Let's just say in a 30-day span, 30 days, right? They make $125,000 that month. Let's just say 120. Let's just say $100,000. Keep it even, right? They grossed $100,000. Let's go right by that line, right? Where it says 73.74 right on the top or whatever. 73.79, whatever it says. Let's just pretend that's 100,000 total sales, right? And then whatever. No taxes. Don't put the tax on there. Let's just say they made $100,000 in after tax, after the sales tax, right? Let's just say it costed them $40,000 in parts, right? Costed them another $20,000 in labor. They got 40 grand left over, right? That's their gross profit. That's where you put in. Then we got fixed costs, right? Fixed costs on the end monthly statement, not on one ticket. So let's just say their fixed costs are 20 grand. Let's just say it costs 20 grand to run that shop in a month. Now they're left with 20 grand profit. Now they got to pay tax on the 20 grand profit, get to keep about 15. Let's just say it's roughly around there. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying that's how it works. And if they didn't, and I'm just throwing this at you, right? And he can't tell me I'm wrong because I know this business. Let's say they don't take in that car right there that's on the board. Let's just say they did $100,000 in sales, but let's take away that car, right? Well, now they only did 90. Now they only did what? I want to say 93,000 in sales, 92.5, 92.6. Now they only did 92,006 in sales, and they lost $2,700 profit. That's the reality of the situation. I'm just saying, bro, right? And that's how the monthly statement breaks down at the end. That 2087 still there, right? Their bills didn't change, so that 20 grand in bills that they had to pay, whether they did $93,000 at the end of the month or $100,000 at the end of the month, they still had to pay that 20 grand in bills. I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. Don't let that fool you. That 2087, I don't know why he put that there. I don't agree with that. What I'm going to tell you is this. On that car, they made $2,799 in profit, minus what they had to pay the service advisor. I would say they made about $2,500 in profit. And then they netted probably right around, depending on the tax totals there. Okay. But yeah, I mean, whatever their taxes in Georgia, I don't know what their taxes are. But, that's the case though. It's whether they took on that car or whether they did not, They did 100,000 if they did. They did 93,000 if they didn't. And that $2,700 profit they would have lost if they never took it, right? So they would be at $93,000 for the month, and then you take out that $2,700 profit as well. They lost profit. Now, if they got that sale, right? Let's just say they're at $93,000 for the month, and then they get that $7,300 sale. That bumps them up to, that $100,000 in total volume mark, right? But now you add on that $2,700 profit, and that's how it goes. The more cars you do, the more profit you're going to make to be able to afford to run the shop that month. There's no such thing as putting out a $2,000 fixed costs and applying that to one car. Like I said, I think this P&L on that car was great. I think that's how much you got to make. They made $2,500 profit on that car. End of story. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what they got to do. They're a shop. They have a lot of overhead, a lot of expenses. That fixed cost at the end of the month, not in the one car, but at the end of the month is why they got to make that $2,500 profit. And then throw some taxes on that. He's right. You probably made about $2,000. That's this moral of the story. Let's see what he has to say and finish this off, man. Because I can't deal hearing with that fixed cost thing. I don't know. That was weird.
It's just the reality of life. That's, what we live, right? And for us, that's roughly what it's going to be. Pretty doggone close, honestly. So now where are we at?
You did not bring in a $7,400 sale, a $6,900 pre-tax sale to make $300. I'm sorry, you did not. It wouldn't have been worth it for you. You did not do that. Don't try to sell that to the people. Okay. That is wrong. That is not true. And I want to let all you guys know that is not true. However, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with how much he did make. He made $2,500 profit on this ticket, I'm telling you. And that was great. That's what he should do every time. That's what I would do.
$168
Running a shop.
and 40 cents. $368
I really like Sherwood,
and 40 cents.
But
is
he went too
really
far.
what the business gets to keep, right? I guess, what the actual profit of the business is after taxes, after everything. Okay, 368. Now, we also have to prepare for improvements to the business, right? We don't want to, we just, if we want to maintain where we're at, to me, it's like if you want to maintain.
No, and what are you going to do? Take that out of this car too? Did this Dodge Charger pay for everything?
Here's the deal. If you ever looked at a chart, right? And they say, oh, well, if you're maintaining, the line should look like that. You're actually in decline because everything else around you is going up. So really to maintain, you need to be doing this, okay? To grow, you want to be doing that. All right, so if we want to continue to do what we're doing, continue to offer the services that we're doing. An example would be in that video you saw we purchased a brake cleaner, a parts cleaner we can put under the car and be able to use that. Let's say that we want, we need a new sign out front, right? We just had to replace the signage at our St. Mary's location because it was old and cracking and, you can't just let it deteriorate into nothing. It's not a one-time purchase, right? So, that was $15,000 for a new, not a whole new sign, just the sides of the sign and some letters on the building, right? If you want to do that, that comes out of that number.
No,
right?
it don't. No, it don't. Because you notice how you wouldn't have been able to afford that new sign if it had to come out of that number. Oh. This Dodge Charger, I swear, man. This Charger's paying for everything. I don't know. Look, man. I get what he's saying. Like, I know if he, whatever, see this video, he'd be like, Kyle, this is how much we made because I'm factoring in the bills and I divided it by how many cars maybe I saw this month. But you can't do that because the bills didn't change because you took in that Charger. If every single month it's going to cost you $20,000 to run your building, whether you take on that 2020 whatever Charger and whether you don't, that number would have stayed the same. You can't sell that on me, man. I'm too smart for that. And I'm sure some other people, are looking at this and they don't know how to break it down like me. They don't know how to really look at that like I do. But I'm telling you right now, some people are just too smart to know you didn't do a $7,000 sale to make $300. No, he did not. He made $2,500 after taxes. He probably got around whatever, and that went towards the profit of the month. And and say they did 40 grand in profit that month that they did this car. If they lost that sale and didn't get it, they would have done $2,500 less profit that month. And then that sign that he's talking about comes out of that number, the big number, not $300 number. So, like, I don't know. This Dodge Charger is paying for a lot of crap. I don't know.
Comes out of that. That's not in this number. That
Yes,
comes
it is.
out of
Yes,
this
it
number.
is. It's in that. No.
Right?
It's
All
in
right?
that number.
Generally, you want to put
Minus
about
tax.
25 minimum, 25% minimum of that number towards, you're trying to grow, right?
No.
So what are we at the end of the day? And I know people say, well, yeah, we're actually at 368. That's fine. If you want to say that, that's fine. But for us, that's what we get to keep.
Oh. Sherwood, I just want to ask you this question right now. Okay, let's just say, for example, if your bank account, I'm sure it has millions in it. I'm sure you're doing very well. But let's just say your bank account, to make it easy, had $10,000 in it. And you spent $3,872 minus 385 or plus 385, right? Let's say you spent $4,200. Okay. That brings you down to what? 5,800. 5,800, right? Okay. $5,800, and then you pump back in, right? And obviously you can take out the tax or whatnot, but then you pump back in 69.58. So 69.58 plus 5,800. All right, that's a lot more than the 10,000 you walked in with, right? Yes. Okay. So 58 plus 69. That's over 10, right? Okay. So I'm going to do the math on my calculator just because, like, I'm pretty interested right now. So 69.58 plus 5,800, $12,758 minus all taxes. Okay. That would mean, well, before taxes, you profited $2,758. Okay. Minus some taxes out of that sale, right? Out of that whatever profit that you had. It looks like your gross profit was 27. Okay. I'm not even caring about that fixed car shit, that fixed cost. That's what I'm trying to prove right now. And then that net profit you have, right? Great. I'm saying your net profit after $248 in tax would have been around 24 something. So let's just take out, I don't know, let's just take out $300 in taxes just to be even, right? 24.58. That would have left you with $12,458, and then minus out what you had to pay your service advisor. Because I'll take the service advisor cost out of that ticket, right? Because he probably made commission on that ticket. Let's just take out another $300 just to be weary about it, just to be on his best side, right? That would have meant if you walked before that sale, if you would have had 10 grand in your pocket and you flushed out those parts and labor costs, right? And the advisor cost and paid taxes, but then the customer paid you $69.58 instead of 10 grand, okay, that you've initially had, now you're at $12,158. I don't know where exactly you're getting 276 from, because you wouldn't be in business if that was the case. I see what you're saying. You're trying to say that bills and it costs money to run the shop, and so in reality I'm not making as much as people think, and I'll buy that. You're not making as much as people thinking, right? I know you're not making in reality a $2,500 profit off of that car. But at the moment you are. right? You're walking away with a $2,500 profit, and you're adding up the profit from every car you had that month into one grand total at the end of the month. And that is what expenses come out of, right? That money. All right, I explained that enough. If you don't understand what I'm saying,
That's the number. That's the magic number right there for everybody to see. And if we notice, the technician, I mean, if you want to do this, look at this. I would compare this one because the technician, I mean, you know, they're not, you know, we can compare this one to that one. The technician and
so the technician made more money than the shop. So is the technician in 5 years going to have more money off of his job than you made off the business? Come on, bro. All right, that's all I got to say for today, guys. This is a 40-minute long video, so I went a little overboard. I just wanted to see this video. Obviously, look, he's a great guy. He's a great shop. He does a lot of great things. He is all for the customer. Very good customer service, it looks like. He looks like he's a really cool guy. I'd love to meet this guy, honestly, if I ever could, because I'm in the same industry. But I just don't like, in the direction he was going on the bottom half of that, on that whiteboard. So let's see if he says anything else.
generally make roughly the same thing. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, that's about the same profit as the technician does. Everybody else is inside this, all the other employees. Now, I want to show you this. I told you I would say this. Our profit percentage at our shop for last year was,
And this varies between each job. Some jobs are more profitable than others.
yeah,
This is all.
But it all goes to, but Sherwood Jr., it all goes towards the end of the month. You know that. All the profit on every car gets bundled up into, whatever. I did 300 cars this month, whatever. I made, $90,000 profit, which I'm sure wasn't that much of, whatever. But I'm just saying, let's just say I made $100,000 profit. Then I, can go and pay for a sign or do this and that. But the Dodge Charger did not cost that. It seemed like this Dodge Charger just paid for a lot.
this is our
Everything.
entire year of 2025. What percentage did we make? 8%. Now, I will tell you, generally, most shops are shooting for somewhere between 10 and 20%. Whoops. Percent a little soon.
Yeah, 8% is definitely low.
Whoops. 10 and 20%. Now, we would.
Now, 8% after you took home your nice salary, after I'm sure you paid your son very well, I'm sure you paid your people pretty well. 8% is how much maybe the business grew, right? 8% business increase. But yeah, I mean, even then, you're right. It is still a little low, but still, I mean, look, you gotta operationally, get things fixed up a little better. I mean, I get it. You're trying to grow. Profit's not going to be as great in the beginning, but at the end of the day, I mean, look, I'm sure you're paying yourself pretty well. I'm sure you're paying everybody there pretty well. I mean, 8%, growth in the building, it's pretty healthy. I mean, if everybody's paid very well and you're okay with that, but yeah, I mean, any business should be trying to roughly reach 15 to 20%. Bottom line, and that's any business. I mean, you should see, if you do $1 million in sales, you should see 200,000 profit, and if you're seeing less than that, I mean, it should be 15 at the very lowest. 13, 15, never 8. 8 is low.
Love to be, we're striving to get up to about 11 to 12.
Right. I mean, that's still pretty low.
What
yeah,
really
it's a lot
hurts
better.
us, honestly, is this number right here. And what hurts us in that number, not that I am saying anything about these people, not that I am saying that I want to get rid of anybody. I will not do that, right? The reality is we have, I'm sitting there clicking things here. We have more personnel than most shops. We do pickups and deliveries. We do car washes. We pick people home. We pick people up. We have more personnel because of that. So in most shops, what you're going to find is a service advisor, or a couple of service advisors, and 3 or 4 or 5 techs, Maybe more than that in
Right.
bigger shops, whatever. It's a
Right.
normal size shop. You're not going to have, and
That's
that's
true.
it. You're not going to, you might have a manager. Maybe you've got a manager in there. Usually on a size shop like that, the manager will be one of the service advisors potentially, but that's usually the makeup of a shop. And it's easier for them to get somewhere in that 15% range because their costs of labor is lower. When you start adding in, people that are, like I say, doing the car wash, doing the pickups and deliveries and that kind of stuff, those people, it adds up because we can't just have one of those, right?
It does
We
add up.
usually have a couple
You're
of
right.
car washers minimum.
You're right.
And then we usually have, 3 to 4 client care people to pick up and deliver and do those kind of things. Now, some of them are part-time, some of them are full-time, but that labor adds up quickly. And then when you calculate in some overtime in that, that's just a fact of life because we get here a little early. You're never going to leave exactly on the time. You start calculating overtime in, boom, it goes way up. But that's okay. We're okay with 8%. I'm fine with 8%, knowing that we give a higher level of service to our clients. And right now, we have
Agreed.
no other way of lowering this down. It's just, it is what it is. But that's the reality, guys. All right, so now this is to address the people who said $4,500 at the dealership to do what we did. Again, we did all 4 corners all the way around, plus a brake flush. We don't even have to get into the rears. Let me just show you the fronts. So we're gonna put the part numbers up here, just so you guys can go look for yourself. We're going by list price. Now, before you do anything, when I get done showing you the list price, I am gonna tell you what a lot of dealerships do. So stay tuned for that, because list price is not always list price, and it's not going to go in the direction you think it is. These are the 2 front rotors. So there's your part numbers for the 2 front rotors, and there's the part number. They're different rotors, and there's your part number for the rear, for the front brake pads. Front brake pads, front brake rotors. What's the cost of these things? This one, list price from the dealership, for that rotor, not for both, for that one. This one, I don't know why it's different, but it is more money. That one's $1,870. And this, the brake pads, list price from the dealer, add them up, where's the labor at, guys? For those of you who said the dealership would do it for $4,557, I guess the tech's doing it for free, right? I don't know. Maybe they.
Bro, and that's list price. That's what the dealership's gonna charge the customers if they just come and grab it themselves. And there is no Sherwood or no third party shop, right? What you guys gotta understand is the shops get a discounted price so they can make money and compete with the dealer, right? The dealer can't charge $1,870 to Sherwood shop, or else he wouldn't be able to make any money, right? But he probably didn't make much. 45.57 was what they would charge a customer, and I think he said his cost was 38. So he made about $800, $700 off the parts, but still charged a fair price to the customer. That's if he charged the exact same 45. Honestly, he might have charged it cheaper. I don't know.
For free. Maybe those techs feel real good. They just want to work on a Scatpack, I guess. But that's not reality. That's the cost of just the front brake pads for those of you who said that the dealership would do it for $4,500. What you did was you called the dealership and you got the price on the parts. And it was $4,557, and you went, well, that's how much they do it. You don't factor in the labor. You don't factor in everything else.
That's true. If it doesn't go right to 45, they might have just called on the parts, or I was thinking that they just gave the wrong options or something like that. But they might have just got the parts.
Might have just got the parts. Here's the kicker with these 2 numbers, or with these 3 numbers. A lot of dealerships are going to go right by that number in their service department. A lot of dealerships, a lot of them, whether you believe me or not, it's the truth. They mark up their list price. So if you go into the parts department and you say, I want to buy these 2 rotors, I want to buy that part, they'll sell it to you for that price over the counter. It's just a person walking in.
Right.
But that same dealership, this is what a lot of dealerships do, when they sell that part to their service department marks it up. So you might go in their service department and that $1,825 part is not $1,825 anymore. Now you're going to pay more in their service
Might be like
department.
$1,950.
It's just the way that
yeah.
they mark up. They just mark it up, you know, when they move it to the service. That happens in a lot of dealerships. It's been going on for a very, very long time. Some dealerships do it, some dealerships don't. But it is a reality that you might actually go to the service department and say, I want this brake job done. Look on the ticket, and your invoice might not reflect these numbers. They might be actually higher than that. I have never seen one go lower than that. I'm sure I'll get comments that somebody has been to a dealership and they lowered it down. I'm sure I'll get those comments in there. But the reality is they don't lower those unless they're doing some kind of goodwill or something, or who knows. But they do up them. They do go up on them. There it is, guys. That's everything in a nutshell. That's the whole deal. That's what we did on that job. Now you can see.
Right, because you could see the parts cost them $38.72. And the labor cost, so they paid the tech, right? So it costed them probably a total of about $4,200 to do that job, and they charged $69, right? So right there, they made $2,000, obviously. You know, that's the reality of the situation. You know, well, 42. I'm sorry, no, I'm wrong. 42 and 69. So they made 2,700 bucks. You know, and then obviously you minus out the what you call it, the taxes and everything else. Like I said, they probably got around like that 2,400 mark, 23, 24, 25-ish mark, and whatever. And that was still with being a very competitive price. It was still cheaper than the dealership. You know, if they charge 69 total, like I said, I don't know how they broke down their labor, but the parts, I mean, they probably didn't go above those list prices there that are on the left side that he's blocking right now. But yeah, that's a very fair price, guys. Like I gotta say, that's very fair. I'm not gonna lie. These guys definitely do a very good job. That's a fair price, no question about it. So, you know, if I mean, I don't know how much my word means. You know, I'm not really like a big YouTuber. But you know, however, that's a fair price. He did a good job. The only pushback I had on this whole video is just he just tried to do too much when he started breaking down those fixed costs. But other than that, I mean, look, I agree. I mean, everything else I agree with, and I agree with how much he made off the ticket. So, you know, I think it was a good thing to make $2,500, $2,400, you know, and still be profitable, still compete with the dealership, still give the customer a better service, and still did it faster probably than the dealership would at a higher quality. Not going to be told that you got to wait 3 weeks to get it done. So that was a very good one. Let's see if he says anything else really interesting.
Shops, and we're, for me, a pretty well-run shop. Yeah, I'd love to get that 8% up just a little tiny bit, but for a well-run shop, a lot of shops don't even run this. I know a lot of shops that run 2 and 3% profit. And again, this is why I want them to know, you know, listen, this is what you should be shooting for as far as your you know, fixed costs and stuff like that. You know, this is why you have to mark up the parts like you mark them up. This is why you can't do, oh, I'll bring my own parts in, right? If you brought your own parts in, the fixed cost is you know, we still got to pay for everything, and you just taken we can do a whole other video on that.
Yeah, we could.
Right? But that's the reality of automotive repair shops.
Good for the public to see this too.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you like that. I can't wait to see the comments on this one. Drop them down there.
So, yeah, guys, that's pretty much what I got to say about that. You know, like I said, very stand-up guy. I really like these guys. Hopefully, if they see this video or whatever, hopefully they don't take anything I said today offensive, because I didn't mean it that way. Obviously, it's just more based on my experience. You know, like I said, I run a shop, been a store manager for 3 years, and I've been breaking down P&Ls and you know, all that stuff for the last 3 years. I mean, that's what I do, and I do it very well. And I could tell you, the shop that I run at definitely runs at a higher than 8%, a lot higher than that. And granted, I'm not saying anything. If he ran my shop, I'm sure he'd do the same thing. It's his shop, so he can run it the way he wants to run it. He's constantly innovating his buildings. You know, he has a lot of employees. He's got, you know, wash people and drivers, and he's got a bunch of stuff that take up a lot of payroll. Where if you were to get rid of that payroll expense, he would already be up to 12, 15%. You know, but he's obviously doing a very good job, very good guy here. So don't take anything I said personal. Obviously, I'm 100% on this guy's side with everything. The only thing like I said, you can't put fixed cost into one car. Other than that, like, share, subscribe if you're new, and I'm out.